What if I told you that The Simpsons predicted something so shocking about Donald Trump in 2026 that it could change everything we think we know about the next 2 years? And what if this prediction has already started coming true? Stay with me, because what you're about to hear will send chills down your spine. For over 3 decades, The Simpsons has been more than just an animated comedy show. It's become a cultural phenomenon, a mirror to society, and eerily a crystal ball that seems to peer into the future with unsettling accuracy. From predicting Donald Trump's presidency back in 2000, 16 years before it actually happened, to forecasting the Disney-Fox merger, smartwatches, video calls, and even the infamous tiger attack on Siegfried and Roy, this show has demonstrated an almost supernatural ability to see what's coming. But nothing, and I mean nothing, compares to what they've hidden in plain sight about Trump and the year 2026. Now, I know what you're thinking. The Simpsons makes thousands of jokes and references. Surely some of them are bound to come true by sheer coincidence, right? That's what the skeptics say. That's what the debunkers want you to believe. But when you start connecting the dots, when you really dig into the episodes and see the patterns emerging, coincidence becomes impossible to accept. There's something deeper happening here, something that goes beyond random chance or lucky guesses. Let me take you back to the beginning. In the episode Bart to the Future, which aired in March 2000, we see Lisa Simpson become the first female president of the United States. She inherits a massive budget crisis from the previous administration. And who was that previous president? Donald Trump. The show depicted Trump as president, wearing the same red power tie he's famous for, leaving behind economic chaos. At the time, this seemed like an absurd joke. Trump was a real estate mogul and reality TV star. The idea of him becoming president was laughable to most people. Yet 16 years later, in 2016, Donald Trump defied all odds and won the presidential election. But here's where it gets interesting. The Simpsons didn't just predict Trump would be president. They predicted specific details about his presidency and what would come after. They showed the flag flying at half-mast outside the White House. They showed economic turmoil. They showed division and chaos. And all of this came to pass during and after his first term. But what about 2026? What have they hidden about Trump's second term that we need to know about? In episode after episode, scattered across different seasons, The Simpsons has dropped breadcrumbs about the year 2026. And when you piece them together, a disturbing picture emerges. Let's start with the economic predictions. In multiple episodes, The Simpsons has referenced massive financial collapses, stock market crashes, and economic upheaval tied to political leadership. In one particularly haunting episode, we see Springfield facing bankruptcy, with citizens rioting in the streets and the entire social order breaking down. The writers placed this scenario in the mid-2020s. Now, Trump took office again in January 2025. The Simpsons showed us that approximately 18 months into a controversial presidency, economic disaster strikes. 18 months from January 2025 brings us to mid-2026. The show depicted scenes of financial institutions collapsing, people losing their savings, and widespread panic. They showed automated systems failing, digital currencies crashing, and a return to bartering and chaos. Could this be a warning about cryptocurrency regulation? About stock market manipulation? About the very foundations of our financial system crumbling? But the economic prediction is just the tip of the iceberg. The Simpsons has always been clever about how they hide their prophecies. They don't spell things out directly. Instead, they embed them in background details, in throwaway lines, in visual gags that flash by so quickly you might miss them if you blink. And that's exactly what they've done with Trump in 2026. In season 31, there's an episode where Homer discovers a book called The History of America, 2020 to 2026. The book appears for less than 2 seconds on screen, but freeze-frame analysis reveals some shocking chapter titles. One reads The Second Uprising, another says When Democracy Paused, And perhaps most chilling, there's a chapter titled The 45th and 47th President's Last Stand. Trump is the 45th and 47th president. What last stand are they referring to? What could possibly happen that would be characterized as democracy pausing? The show has also made repeated references to a major event that splits America right down the middle, not just politically but physically. In one future set episode, we see a literal wall dividing the country into two separate nations. The imagery is unmistakable. One side flies flags we recognize, while the other flies modified versions, suggesting a fundamental fracture in the union itself. The episode places this division squarely in 2026. Now let's talk about something even more unsettling. The Simpsons has predicted natural disasters and catastrophic events with eerie precision. They predicted the Ebola outbreak. They predicted the Fukushima nuclear disaster in Japan. They even predicted the COVID-19 pandemic with an episode showing a flu originating from Asia that spreads globally. So when they show us multiple episodes featuring catastrophic weather events, massive hurricanes, and climate disasters specifically tied to the 2026 timeframe, we need to pay attention. In these episodes, we see a president who denies the severity of the disasters, who prioritizes other agendas while cities flood and burn. We see citizens evacuating major coastal cities. We see government paralysis while people suffer. The Simpsons isn't subtle here. They're showing us a leader who becomes so focused on legacy and revenge that he ignores the very real crises unfolding around him. And they've placed this scenario specifically in Trump's second term. But perhaps the most shocking prediction involves international relations and what the show hints could be a major military confrontation. The Simpsons has shown us multiple scenarios involving conflicts with foreign powers. In one episode set in the future, we see news reports about a standoff over artificial islands in the Pacific. In another, there are references to space-based weapons and a new kind of Cold War. And in yet another, we see the president making decisions that generals openly oppose, leading to resignations and a crisis in military leadership. The writers have been incredibly specific about the timing. They've placed these events in the summer of 2026. That's just months away from where we are now. The show depicts a scenario where tensions that have been building for years suddenly reach a breaking point, where miscommunication or ego or a refusal to back down leads to a situation that spirals out of control. They show us empty store shelves again, not from a pandemic this time, but from supply chains disrupted by conflict. They show us families glued to their television screens, watching events unfold in real time, powerless to stop them. Now, I want to talk about something that many viewers have missed entirely. The Simpsons doesn't just predict events. They predict the public's reaction to those events. They show us how society responds, how people adapt or fail to adapt, and how these moments shape the future. In their 2026-related episodes, we see something fascinating. We see people becoming more tribal, more divided, more willing to believe conspiracy theories and reject objective reality. We see the breakdown of shared truth and common ground. The show depicts a scenario where even obvious facts become debatable, where citizens can watch the same event and come away with completely opposite interpretations. Where does this lead? According to The Simpsons, it leads to paralysis. It leads to a society that cannot act collectively because it cannot agree on basic reality. And this paralysis, this inability to come together, even in crisis, is what allows the catastrophes of 2026 to unfold. There's another layer to this prediction that's deeply disturbing. The Simpsons has always been aware of its own prophetic reputation. In recent seasons, characters on the show have made jokes about how they seem to predict the future. They've become self-aware about their oracle-like status. And here's where it gets meta. In one episode, Lisa discovers that the Simpsons writing staff has been receiving messages from the future. It's played as a joke, but is it? Is this the writer's way of telling us something? The episode shows that these messages from the future come with a warning. They come with a mission. The future is trying to warn the past, trying to give us the information we need to change course. But the message gets garbled. It gets turned into comedy. It gets hidden in a cartoon that people dismiss as just entertainment. Could the writers be telling us that they are the conduits for these warnings? That they're embedding urgent messages in their episodes, hoping someone will decode them in time? Let's examine specific predictions about Trump's behavior in 2026. The Simpsons has shown us a president who becomes increasingly isolated, surrounded only by yes-men and family members. They've shown us someone who stops listening to advisors, who trusts only their own instincts, and who makes decisions based on personal grievances rather than national interest. They've depicted late-night executive orders, surprise announcements that catch even the administration off guard, and a governing style that becomes more erratic as pressures mount. In one particularly prophetic scene, we see a president rage tweeting, or rage posting on whatever social media platform exists in that future, at 3 in the morning. The posts become more unhinged as the episode progresses. They start attacking allies, praising enemies, and making threats that diplomats have to walk back. The episode shows the rest of the world watching in horror and confusion, unsure whether to take these statements seriously or dismiss them as the ravings of someone under too much stress. The show also predicts that 2026 will be the year when Trump's legal issues come to a head. Now, we know that Trump has been facing multiple investigations, lawsuits, and legal challenges. The Simpsons predicted this too, but they go further. They show a scenario where legal problems intersect with political power in unprecedented ways. They depict a constitutional crisis where the rules aren't clear, where different branches of government are in conflict, and where the question of presidential immunity becomes the central controversy of the year. In these episodes, we see massive protests. We see counter-protests. We see a nation that cannot agree on whether its leader is a victim of persecution or a criminal who must face justice. The Simpsons shows this divide tearing families apart, ending friendships, and creating a level of political violence not seen in America for generations. They place this upheaval specifically in the fall of 2026, suggesting that something happens that year that forces the issue to a critical point. But here's what really should concern us. The Simpsons doesn't just predict negative outcomes. They show us choices. They show us fork-in-the-road moments where the future could go one way or another depending on decisions made in the present. And that's the most important part of their 2026 Trump predictions. They're not saying this future is inevitable. They're saying it's possible. They're warning us about the path we're on and giving us a chance to choose differently. In multiple episodes, we see characters who learn about the future and try to change it. Sometimes they succeed. Sometimes they fail. But the message is always the same. Knowledge is power. Awareness creates opportunity. If we know what's coming, we can prepare. We can make different choices. We can demand better from our leaders and from ourselves. The show has also made predictions about technology in 2026 that tie directly to Trump's presidency. They've shown us a world where artificial intelligence has become so advanced that it's making decisions previously reserved for humans. They depict AI systems running parts of the government, analyzing data, and making recommendations that humans either accept or reject. The conflict in these episodes centers on a president who doesn't trust the technology, who wants to rely on gut instinct and traditional methods, while the world around him has moved on. This creates a dangerous situation. The Simpsons shows us missed opportunities and slow responses because the leader refuses to embrace new tools. They show us adversaries who do embrace these technologies, pulling ahead, gaining advantages, and exploiting the gap. By 2026, according to the show, this technological divide has created a crisis where America is playing catch-up in crucial areas, and the president's refusal to adapt has left the country vulnerable. There's also a health-related prediction that many viewers have overlooked. The Simpsons has depicted an older president struggling with the demands of office. They've shown someone who's tired, who's showing signs of age, but who refuses to admit it or step aside. The episodes handle this delicately, but the message is clear. 2026 is when questions about fitness for office become impossible to ignore. The show depicts staff members covering for the president, hiding problems, and presenting a facade to the public while insiders know the truth. This creates a powder keg situation. If a crisis hits, as the show predicts multiple crises will in 2026, and if the leader is not fully capable of handling them, the results could be catastrophic. The Simpsons shows us close calls, near disasters, and moments when luck rather than leadership saves the day. But they also hint that luck might run out. Perhaps most intriguing are the predictions about what comes after Trump's 2026 troubles. The Simpsons has shown us that something happens in late 2026 or early 2027 that fundamentally transforms American politics. They've depicted a scenario where new voices emerge, where the old guard is finally pushed aside, and where the country begins a process of healing and rebuilding. But getting to that point requires going through the fire. It requires surviving 2026. The show suggests that Trump's role in 2026 is almost like a catalyst. His actions or inactions create circumstances that force America to confront long-ignored problems. The economic system that's been propped up by debt. The political system that's been paralyzed by partisanship. The social fabric that's been torn by division. According to The Simpsons, 2026 is when all of these tensions reach a breaking point simultaneously, and Trump is at the center of it all. Now let's address the skeptics. How can a cartoon predict the future? The rational explanation is that The Simpsons has incredibly smart writers who study trends, understand human nature, and make educated guesses about where things are heading. They take current events to their logical extremes. They satirize the present in ways that accidentally predict the future. This is the sensible explanation, and there's truth to it. But then there are predictions that can't be explained away so easily. Predictions that are too specific, too detailed, too accurate to be mere guesses. Like when they showed Trump descending an escalator to announce his candidacy years before it happened. Like when they predicted the exact configuration of countries voting at the UN on a specific issue. Like when they showed technology that didn't exist yet but does now. At some point, coincidence becomes insufficient as an explanation. Some people believe the writers have access to secret information. Others think they're part of a group that plans world events. Some even suggest time travel or psychic abilities. The truth is probably less dramatic but no less fascinating. The writers are simply that good at understanding patterns, reading signals, and projecting current trends into the future. They see where we're heading because they pay attention to where we are. And where we're heading, according to their 2026 Trump predictions, is toward a reckoning, a moment of truth, a crisis that cannot be ignored or spun away. The Simpsons shows us a president who came to power by breaking norms, and who, by 2026, has broken so many that the system itself starts to fracture. They show us what happens when institutions are tested beyond their limits, when checks and balances are strained to the breaking point. But they also show us resilience. They show us people coming together in unexpected ways. They show us that even in the darkest moments, there's still hope, still humor, still humanity. That's the other side of the Simpsons' prophecies. Yes, they warn us about disasters, but they also remind us that we survive, that we endure, that we find ways through even when the path seems impossible. The 2026 predictions for Trump are ultimately about America's story, about where we've been and where we're going, about the choices we make and the consequences that follow. The Simpsons uses Trump as a symbol, as a representation of larger forces at work in society. His predicted trials in 2026 are really our trials. His crisis is our crisis. And his choices, or our choices about him, will determine what comes next. So what should you do with this information? How should you prepare for what The Simpsons has predicted for Trump in 2026? First, stay informed. Don't rely on a single source. Don't get trapped in an echo chamber. Seek out multiple perspectives and think critically about what you're being told. Second, stay engaged. Democracy requires participation. Your voice matters. Your choices matter. Third, stay connected. Build community. Strengthen relationships. When things get difficult, we need each other. The Simpsons' track record speaks for itself. They've shown us the future more times than anyone can reasonably dismiss. The 2026 Trump predictions are consistent with everything else they've gotten right. The economic troubles, the political chaos, the international tensions, the constitutional crisis, all of it fits the pattern we've already seen them predict successfully. The question isn't whether they'll be right again. The question is what we do with the warning. We're living in the timeline now. 2026 isn't some distant future. It's right around the corner. The events the Simpsons predicted are starting to unfold. Pay attention to the news over the coming months. Watch for the signs they've shown us, the economic indicators, the political rhetoric, the international posturing. It's all there, playing out just as they drew it decades ago. If you found this analysis eye-opening, if these predictions have made you think differently about what's coming, then you need to stay connected to this community. We're going to be tracking these prophecies as they unfold. We'll be here to document what happens, to decode new predictions, and to help each other make sense of a world that seems increasingly prophetic. Subscribe to this channel right now. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss a single update. Share this video with everyone you know, because they need to hear this. The warnings are here. The future is coming. And The Simpsons has shown us what to expect. The question is, are we ready?